On today's episode of Locked On Wild, what if I told you it's possible to have size and skating in round 2 of this year's NHL Draft?
Hey, this is Matt Boldy, and you're listening to Locked On Wild.
You're Locked On Wild, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Wild. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is happening, everybody? Welcome into another episode of Locked On Wild, your daily Minnesota Wild podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. We are your team each and every day, and we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day as well. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platform so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. On today's episode of Locked On Wild, we start diving into some potential prospects for the Minnesota Wild to take a peek at in round 2. And I have found size and skating. So can't wait to take a peek at that here today. We'll go through 3 names on today's show. My name is Seth Toupal, host of Locked On Wild, host of Seth on Sports. It's part of Radio Mankato and a credentialed member of the media covering the Minnesota Wild as well. I am straying away from the trades and the free agents part of the offseason for today because I feel like we've covered that at length. And as many different rumblings as there are regarding Marco Rossi, I think at this point we've got everything out there. The NHL Draft will be coming up here in a couple of weeks. And the Minnesota Wild, while they don't have a first-round pick right now because they sent that first-round pick to Columbus for David Jiricek, they do still have a second-round pick. And so what we're going to do is we are going to take a look at some of the names that are ranked in the general vicinity that the Minnesota Wild will be selecting in the second round at the 52nd overall pick. There is potential that the Wild make a move that ends up netting them a first-round pick, but I don't get the sense that the Minnesota Wild will be drafting in the first round after the capital that they sent to Columbus for Jiricek. So we're going to start and set our sights on the second round. And we are going to start that process today by taking a look first at a left shot defenseman. At this point, as far as needs go for this Minnesota Wild team, just keep picking them. We're starting with Drew Schock. Drew Schock is a 6-foot, 174-pound left shot defenseman. And he has played for the U.S. National Under-18 team in the NTDP this past year, as well as playing on the juniors team. He's headed to the University of Michigan for the 2025-2026 season. And just looking at his profile, Corey Pronman has him ranked number 53 on his top 125 prospects list. Here's what Corey Pronman has to say about Drew Schock. Schock was a top 4 defenseman for the U.S. NTDP this season, often playing big minutes for them. His skating is his best asset. He's a smooth, powerful skater with top-tier edge work for the pro level. He's got the ability to evade pressure in his own end and at the blue line very well due to his skating and skill. On his best shifts, Schock shows power play potential at the next level. His pure playmaking, though, is average. Despite his tools, the offense hasn't come in major numbers for Schock either. You combine that with the fact that he's a smaller defenseman who isn't overly physical, it's unclear how he will defend as a pro other than using his feet. He works hard enough, and the skating is high-end enough that he could be a useful depth defenseman for an NHL team. I'm looking at a couple of different things in profiles this year. And again, I stress, my general process for these is to go in without opinions made. I call it blind. I call it blind profiles. I like to go in without a ton of knowledge on the players that we're talking about so that I can form my opinions as the episode's going on. No preconceived notions. So Schock, I love what they say about the skating. That stands out. But again, as Priman points out, it's a fair thing to point out as well, is the small stature. Now, the Wild, I think, are one of the few teams that have really pointed out through the players that they have on their roster that if you're smaller on the scale, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be a bad player. So let's move to Upside Hockey to get a little more information on Drew Schock. Schock is a high-energy player who stays active and covers a huge volume of real estate every shift. He's a highly engaged and competitive, staying involved with or without the puck on his blade. His skating is easy to evaluate as it's already NHL caliber, perhaps a notch or two below elite. His edges are superb and allow for quick pivots and rapid changes in pace and direction. He's highly elusive and shifty. Only a few steps are needed to get him up to top speed, and he can back defenders up or burn them completely. His hands are quick too, with well-developed stick handling to deke or dangle around opponents, and his manipulation game is on point, wielding the deception skills to fake his adversaries out of their skates. Schock joins the rush with regularity and often leads them, making smooth, controlled entries using the aforementioned speed, deception, and one-on-one trickery. Once established in the zone, he walks the line like Johnny Cash. I love that line, by the way. Quarterbacking the power play and actively, frequently with the speed to recover almost instantly. He's creative with high-end vision, and though he tries to stay safe and simple, he has a dynamic, flashy side. He can find teammates in high danger with difficult passes as he can see through coverage. Schock is not just a finesse player, though, as he employs physicality, ties up his opponents on the boards, and initiates contact to separate man from puck. Now, as far as Schock's numbers go, and again, keep in mind he's a defenseman, with the U.S. National Under-18 team, the NTDP, he played in 66 games this past season. He had 9 goals, 37 total points, and 28 penalty minutes in those games. He played for the juniors team in the USHL as well. In 27 games, he had 17 points, 20 PIMs, and was a plus 11. For the under-18 A team in the World Junior Championships, he played in 7 games. He had 7 points, 2 goals, 5 assists. And as mentioned, he's headed to the University of Michigan for this upcoming season. So here's what I like. The skating jumps out to me right off the bat. And I think we all have seen that the Wild could use a little more on the skating side. As we'll get into with a couple of the other names here in today's episode, you know, there are options for size as well, if that's a route you want to go. But I like the skating. I like the playmaking ability. Although I do find it interesting, and you always run into this with draft stuff, is the disparity between what Corey Priman says about the offense and what the profile at Upside Hockey says about Schock's work with the stick. If he could profile into a smooth skating, you know, bottom 4 defenseman that has the ability to run, say, a second power play, it's never a bad thing to have options. And again, I talk about the blue line because Jared Spurgeon and Jonas Brodin continue to age. They're not going to be around forever. You have Brock Faber and Zeev Boyum as kind of the face of your defense going forward. Don't count David Jiricek out of that mix too. Jiricek, though, not as good of a skater as the other two are. If you add Schock to the mix, I think you put him up near the top of the list as far as the skating goes. And, you know, maybe that ends up being a pair that you can kind of complement together down the line. with some skating on one side and some size and physical play on the other. So those are the things that jump out. Obviously, the size is flagged, but again, as I said, the Wild have shown time and time again that if you don't have all the size, you can still be a quality defenseman in the NHL. So Schock is an interesting prospect. And I guess the thing that stands out for me regarding him is definitely the skating. And he has plenty of solid seasons statistically as well at his various stops over the last few years. In Michigan, obviously a powerhouse in the NCAA. So it'll be that'll be an interesting spot to kind of watch his progress here over the next couple of years. So right off the bat, if you heard the skating and the lack of size, and we're like, yeah, we already have plenty of those. Well, what if I told you you could have both? I've got a name lined up next that is the full package, size and skating. We'll continue our look at the 2025 NHL Draft prospects in the second round as we continue today's episode of Locked on Wild after this. Today's episode of Locked on Wild is brought to you by Indeed. You just realized your business needed to hire somebody yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Well, that's the easy part. You just use Indeed. When it comes to hiring, Indeed is all you need. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other sites. Indeed's sponsored jobs put your post right at the top of the page and help you find the right candidates faster. And I will tell you, as somebody that was looking for a job this past summer, first thing you see when you type in a profession that you're looking for work in, a category of expertise, you type in a particular field, and the top handful are very emphasized. The top 2 or 3 that pop up are definitely right in view, and the first that I looked at when I was looking for that next big job. So sponsored posts right where you need to be to find your key candidates. And now you can speed up your hiring process with a $75 sponsored job credit. Just go to Indeed.com/lockdown right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need. Welcome back to today's episode of Locked on Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked on Wild your first listen each and every day. We are your team each and every day as well. The listener survey will be done next week. My schedule will be significantly lighter come Monday, so we'll take a couple of days to get everything ironed out, and we'll get it up for you so that we can get your feedback as listeners. What do you like about the show? What would you like to see different? What do you want to see as far as coverage goes for the upcoming season? We've got it all coming up for you in a very easy format to fill out. So keep an eye on that next week. We'll let you know when it is officially live, and we appreciate everybody's feedback on that in advance. So we talk about Drew Schock, great skating ability, some sneaky offense, and potential to contribute on the power play. Let's go to our next name. Another defenseman here, and my next pick is going to be Max Sena of the WHL. And here's what Corey Pronman had to say. He's rated 54th in Corey Pronman's top 125. Psenicka is an athletic defenseman. He skates very well for a 6'5" defender. So right off the top, there's your size, 6'5", skates well. His mobility and ability to make stops allowed him to play pro games at the top level in Czechia before coming over to the WHL midseason. He didn't stand out at that level as some would have hoped, though. The question on Psenicka will be offense. He doesn't have a ton of skill or offensive IQ in his game, although he has a good point shot and can make a decent first pass. His game is a little bland, but he's talented enough for his size to potentially get NHL games. More on Psenicka from the Hockey Writers And I like to just look at where players are particularly ranked. Now, Schock did not have a profile done by the hockey writers, but here are the rankings for Max Sena, as put together by the hockey writers. Peter Baracchini's March rankings had him 83rd overall. Andrew Forbes' March rankings had him 89th overall. Bob McKenzie had him ranked 55th. McKean's Hockey had him 46th, and FC Hockey had him 87th. Here's a little bit of a look at Psenicka from the hockey writers. Despite the late season transition from the Kelowna Rockets in the Canadian Hockey League, he was traded to the Portland Winterhawks in October. He joined Portland mid-season, played 24 regular season games, finished with 1 goal, 6 assists as he adjusted to the style of North American hockey. In the playoffs, he stepped up his contributions, adding 1 goal and 7 assists, 8 total points in 18 games as Portland advanced to the Western Conference Finals. The Winterhawks were ultimately swept by the Spokane Chiefs, who are now battling the mighty Medicine Hat Tigers for a shot at the CHL Memorial Cup at the time that this was posted. Here's the juicy stuff. Despite the late season transition, Psenicka adjusted fast to the WHL style, showing confidence pushing the puck up the ice with a very fast Portland squad, mainly paired with the veteran Ryder Thompson. On the back end, he is solid defensively, blocking shots, back-checking hard, and showing great offensive awareness too. Portland is losing a lot of its top players, including Kyle Shazowski, Ryder Thompson, and others, with many guys moving to the pros or the NCAA. Next season, there'll be a young team, and Psenicka has the chance to be an important part of it as they look to remain competitive in the Western Conference. Strengths, as noted by the hockey writers. Two-way defenseman, his size, his speed, his shot blocking, his passing. He is solid on the power play, and he checks hard. Areas for improvement include strength overall, offensive production, and puck handling. And as far as NHL potential goes, Psenicka has plenty of NHL potential, but he'll need to improve his puck handling skills as he continues to develop. His size compared with speed already gives him an edge, but he has to learn how to play within his frame and build more strength at 6'4". If he can add some offensive production, there is no reason he can't become a full-time NHL defenseman down the road. So that I like, because you can't teach the size and the speed. You can teach you can bulk a player up though. So the fact that he has a combination of the size and the speed, that is an easy flag that comes in right there to what he potentially brings to the table. And just looking at some of the other profiles, FC Hockey had this to say: Psenicka is a tall right-handed defenseman who defends well, but has shown some good offensive instincts. He's consistently involved in the offensive play due to his mobility and his comfort with carrying the puck up the ice to start a rush, indicating that he has the potential to contribute more. Neutral Zone says Max Sena is a towering right shot defenseman whose game revolves around his ability to use his size and reach effectively on both sides of the puck in all 3 zones. While his mobility and puck moving skills are developing, Psenicka's commitment to defensive structure, physicality, and compete level make him an intriguing long-term prospect. And, you look at it as well, the Brock Faber, Zeev Buium, they're a little on the, and again, I'm not saying this is a knock, I'm just saying it is a reality. They are a little on the shorter side of the spectrum. So by adding some size on the back end, but let's just talk this out a little bit. By adding some size on the back end that also has offensive ability and the ability to handle the puck and such, you can have the best of both worlds. And you can fit those guys in on the back end of your defense and they can contribute, in multiple ways. So I would be intrigued by Psenicka as a potential pick for the Wild at 52. I talked about it last year too. I think when the Wilds ended up with Zeev Boyum, there were a couple of prospects that had some real size to them. That just the size always appeals to me as long as you can match the skill with it. That's the caveat. And so Psenicka, I would be perfectly fine with picking him at number 2. And if he profiles as more of a project, you don't need him immediately. You don't need him tomorrow. You can let him do his thing and have him kind of as a long-term answer. Think about Jake Middleton in a couple of years. His deal's going to be up. Does he stick around? Does he go elsewhere? You'll need somebody to step into that role at some point. So wouldn't be a bad option to go. All right, I teased the unicorn with speed and size. So let us take a look at one final player here for today's episode that combines the whole package. We'll finish up today's episode of Locked On Wild right after this. Today's episode of Locked On Wild is brought to you by Game Time. There is nothing like playoff hockey anywhere. The energy, the rivalries, the nonstop action. With the Stanley Cup final heating up, there has never been a better time to see it live. And Game Time makes getting in the building fast and affordable. Game Time gives you last-minute ticket deals, zone deals for deep discounts, panoramic seat views, and all-in pricing with no hidden fees. Panoramic seat view is especially important even in an arena that you have never been to. There's nothing worse than picking a seat, getting up to your seat, and seeing that you are obstructed. Your view is obstructed. You're not going to be able to see the action like you would from your living room. So Game Time got rid of that entirely with their panoramic seat views. Just one of many features that makes Game Time an amazing ticket buying experience. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Final segment of today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Once again, if you have not already, make sure to hit that subscribe button and to follow us throughout the rest of the offseason as we get you set for the 2025-2026 NHL season. All right, so we have talked about a couple of defensemen on the sizier side. In Max Sena. We also talked about a very smooth skating defenseman in Drew Schock. Let's finish talking about a tall center with great puck handling in Matthew Gard of Red Deer of the WHL. Corey Pronman has Gard at his 52nd overall out of his top 125 players. Here's what Pronman has to say about Matthew Gard. Gard has an intriguing NHL toolkit. He's a nearly 6'5" forward with very good stick skills and is able to pull pucks through feet and sticks at a clear NHL level. He creates offense in the high percentage areas. He doesn't shy from contact, uses his big body, and helps his team off the puck. His skating is decent. I've seen worse skating from big men and have seen Gard pull away enough to think he can handle the NHL pace. My main concern with Gard is his hockey sense. He can get his points, but I don't see a forward who makes others better and will create a ton of chances in the pros. The amount of offensive upside in his game will be a debate point, and the lack of sense could push him to the wing. He projects as a bottom six forward. Now, here is the profile from the hockey writers. And the rankings to start, NHL Central Scouting has him 37th among North American skaters. Peter Berrettini has him 72nd in his March rankings. Andrew Forbes has him 82nd in his March rankings. Dayton Reimer's got him 49th in his April rankings. FC Hockey has him 123rd. TSN's Craig Button has him 59th. TSN's Bob McKenzie has him 52nd. McKean's Hockey has him 55th. Draft Prospects Hockey has him 57th. Here's the profile. Matthew Gard took a huge step forward in his second season with the Red Deer Rebels. He only had 7 goals and 18 points in his rookie season in 2023-2024 and jumped to 19 goals and 36 points in his draft year this season. He also became one of head coach David Struck's most trusted forwards, developing in key situations where he needed a faceoff win and on both special teams. According to Neutral Zone, he logged 1 minute, 59 seconds of shorthanded ice time per game, took an average of 15 faceoffs, winning 51%, and was effective defensively with 4.2 takeaways per game, 2.5 loose puck recoveries, and 0.79 block shots. Basically, he was David Struck's Alexander Barkov. Gard's work with the Rebels this season also got the attention of the Team Canada brass for the U18 World Championship, where Canada ended up winning gold over Sweden. He didn't get a ton of ice time, but he still put up a goal and 4 points in 7 games, with his best performance coming against Slovakia on April 24th, where he had a goal and 6 shots in 14 minutes, 55 seconds of ice time in Canada's 9-2 win. It was especially gratifying in the sense that he worked hard for it, and once it came true, he was rewarded for sure. Good to be on the radar. You never know what will happen down the road, Gard said in an interview after the tournament. Gard's biggest strength is definitely his size, as he's already 6'5", 192 pounds, and he knows how to use it, whether it is along the boards or where he's the most effective at the front of the net. Most of his 19 goals this season were scored within a few feet of the crease, either by going hard to the net, bouncing off his screen, out of his screen position, and receiving a pass or deflections. Most of the concerns that scouts have about Gard are centered around his skating and limited offensive ceiling. While he skates well for his size, his acceleration could use some work, as he doesn't seem to be able to gain separation from defenders. That might not be a problem in the long run, though, considering most of his scoring is done within a few feet of the goaltender. All in all, Gard could be a gem in the later rounds just for his size, hockey IQ, and defensive abilities alone. Every team needs a versatile two-way forward like him to win championships. Not everyone can be Connor McDavid or Leon Draisaitl. You need someone like an Anthony Cirelli, which is, I think, a very interesting comp. And Gard could potentially become someone like that in the future. His strengths: his size, his versatility, his physicality, his work ethic and motor, two-way game, hockey IQ, and he is difficult to handle in front of the net. Does this remind you of anybody in particular? Areas that need work: his skating mechanics, his shot, and his limited offensive ceiling. And they say, as far as NHL potential goes, Gard has all the tools to be a checking line center in the NHL that matches up against the opposition's top lines and anchors a top penalty kill unit. From his work ethic, motor, and physicality to his hockey IQ and all-around defensive game, he has everything a coach wants in a bottom six forward, especially once the playoffs come around. Bill Guerin's been looking for help for Joel Eriksson Ek. Now, obviously, this would not be immediate, but sounds a lot like Joel Eriksson Ek right there. Mostly a player that scores within the areas immediately surrounding the net. Very physical, very defense-oriented, but you can add the offensive potential to it. Look at how Joel Eriksson Ek has developed. It's taken a little while for him to kind of add the offensive skill to the repertoire, but he became a 30-goal scorer. And I know the Wild have Charlie Stramel in the pipeline as well, but I don't think there's anything wrong with having, again, as long as you have the skill to match. We don't need, You can go find, if you really need it, you can go get a Ryan Reeves at the deadline for like a 5th round pick. You can go find those types of players, but I would rather the team be mostly built with players that have both. And players like that do exist with the size, the ability to move around a little bit, and the ability to score in close. So Gard would be another intriguing name for the Wild to consider at 52. He brings all of the things to the table, and basically just going through all those strengths, he sounds exactly like Joel Eriksson Ek. He sounds like a Joel Eriksson Ek clone. Last I checked, Joel Eriksson Ek's pretty good, so cloning him would not be the worst idea. So we will be creating a playlist to view all these profiles, cutting them up, and posting them each individually like we did last year. We're just going to focus mostly on second-round players, at least at this point. Now, if a trade is made and the Wild do end up pulling a first-round pick back in, then we'll set our sights towards the first round. But at least at this point, a few names that the Wild could consider in the second round. That will do it for today's episode of Locked On Wild. Once again, we thank you for making Locked On Wild your first listen each and every day. Again, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe so you don't miss out on any new episodes throughout the week. We've got new episodes for you every Monday through Friday as part of the Locked On Podcast Network.